Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today, it's time to build. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Leadership Secrets podcast. My name is Kale Houser. Thank you for joining me today. I wanted to talk a little bit about how we approach certain things and how they are different than we approach our business. I think we're all familiar with the concept of building a house or building a building of some sort, whether that be the pyramids of Egypt or the office building in your downtown or your house that you're living in or apartment complex that you're living in or the RV that you're living in, whatever that is. That there's a plan, that nobody just starts going, oh, I'm going to put this stick of wood over here and I'm going to dump a little bit of cement over here and maybe I'll put a pipe or two in here for water and sewer or some wires for electricity. No, we approach things of that nature very methodically, very intentionally, and with a plan, right? When you build a house, you start with the concept in your mind, but then it moves quickly, or maybe not quickly, but then it moves down this path of progress, of completion, to where if you want to actually be able to live in that house in a safe manner, that's all up to the legal codes of your area and country and county and state, you go through these processes, and part of that process is hiring experts to do certain work that maybe you don't know how to do, or drawing up plans and making designs and doing engineering, because you want to make sure, depending on what area of the country you live on, it's going to be able to withstand the weight of snow on the top. It's going to be able to withstand hurricane force winds. It's going to be able to maybe not withstand tornadoes, but maybe in the form of a tornado shelter is integrated into it, right? All these different things. And if you're in the Northwest, it's going to be able to withstand, copious amounts of water in the form of rain. But the point being that there's a plan, and that we approach something of that nature with a plan in mind. And that's not necessarily for everybody with a house, because not everyone builds their own house from scratch. They have that trust and faith in the builder who they've purchased the house from, that they have done all those things, as evidenced by, somebody has signed off the house to be livable, and, the county's approved it, and all these different kinds of checks and balances that we have in our society now to ensure safe habitation for residents. But beyond that, because when we think of, a house, we just think of the construction part of it, the hammer and the nails, the pouring in cement, the plumbing, the electrical, the roofing, windows, doors, all that kind of thing, and even the interior, carpeting and walls and paint. But take a step back further in the process. Somebody has done their market research to go, if you're a builder, if I build a house over here in this community, will somebody buy it? Will they buy it for a price that I need them to buy it in order to make money at building this house and selling it? Is this a growing community? Is this in a good school district? Do people want to live here? Are there people in this area that can afford a house, right? Because those may not be yeses to any of those questions. And that is what goes into, especially if you're a builder or a developer, the part of the process of that market research of, is this a good investment of our time, resources, and money in order to do that? And then you keep going beyond that too. Like, okay, cool. This is a great area. People want to live here. There are people around here. Well, okay, what about taxes? What do the taxes look like in this state, in this county, in this city, principality, municipality, whatever that is in your area, in your country? Has people been priced out of that market, out of that area because of taxes? Whatever school levies they've got going on, or any other random taxes that communities decide to put on as part of their property taxes and home taxes. As well as you get into, and especially now you're hearing a lot about this in the news with Lake Mead in the Vegas area, because that's where they draw their water, and it's like at historic low levels. So you get into are there the resources available to support a house here, to support a community here, a development here, in the form of electricity, access to natural resources of water, sewer connections? Can I put a septic tank in here? Do I need to dig a well? All those types of things go into it that are beyond just the surface level. Is there lumber available to build these walls? Do I have access to drywall? Do I have access to the actual materials to construct the house? And then you go even further of legal aspects, the intangibles of, can I build this? Is it lawful for me to build on this land? Do I own this land? What process have I gone through to gain rights to build on this land, to include easements and all those types of things that go into development? And this is obviously what developers do, but these are processes that they go through besides just the construction. And then if you want to talk about the construction end of it, now, it has been a massive issue of late, especially in the United States and in North America, access to the raw materials to be able to build the house. The price of lumber has skyrocketed, and drywall and materials. And now you're looking into labor and all those types of things, because the construction industry is having the labor issues just like pretty much every other industry is in the United States, as we're bouncing back from the insanity of the last couple of years. But the point being is, there's this concept of, hey, whether you're on the owner side, like I want to build my own house, right? Design and build my own house. Or you're on the developer side where, hey, I want to build this community and sell these houses to future owners. And that's how I make my money. That's my business. There's these steps and processes, and you approach it very deliberately and not necessarily out of order, right? You don't go in and start looking at necessarily 10 steps down the road if you can't meet and pre-qualify step number 1 of, can I get access to the land? Can I put in a new road here? Can I, will the city let me access their power supply and sewer supply, all those, water supply, all those things? But when it comes to business, and this may be you, this may be not be, but we can probably all think of people that have just jumped in to business with no market research, with no looking into the legal aspect of things, with no looking into, well, what about taxes? What do I have to pay in taxes as a business owner? What can I deduct? And we approach business, and it's so fascinating because I think it's part of what has been sold as the concept of the American dream, right? Of building our own business and being our own boss and developing this thing or program or product or service for your community, whether that's, you opened a laundromat or a car wash or a pizza shop in your community. There's all these steps that I think for most people have this concept of like, oh, that'll just kind of sort itself out and I'll make it work, without doing any of what I talked about previously, the market research, looking into taxes and your business structure, your legal identity, legal paperwork. We live in one of the most litigate, you know what I mean, countries on the planet. And you have to protect yourself, unfortunately. You have to be able to protect yourself, whether that be by disclaimers and terms and conditions and warranties and, sign here on the dotted line that you understand, and warning labels on coffee cups, all those things we have to protect from, unfortunately, less than scrupulous type of people that will go after you for a quick buck in the form of a lawsuit of some nature. And then not to mention vendors and supplies, especially if you're in the food industry. Who are you going to get your mayonnaise from? Who are you going to get your ketchup from? Let alone your meat, vegetables, all those types of things have to go into it as part of your processing, rather than just this kind of nebulous, oh, I want to open this flower shop here because I really love flowers, or this nursery, I love gardening, and you kind of just don't bother with the details of business outside of whatever your passion is for that thing or product or service that led you to it in the first place. Because the reality is, and I've alluded to this in previous, technical experts do not necessarily make great leaders, do not necessarily make great business people, because there is a difference between being an amazing florist, being an amazing pizza maker. Is there a term for that? I don't know if there's a term for that or not. But being an amazing thing, passionate about that product service that you are doing as for your business, and then being a good business person that makes the business viable. You can actually be profitable. You know how to do marketing and sales and research, clientele and find your ideal client. Those aren't necessarily one and the same things, as far as like, I know I have this amazing, this is the best frozen yogurt joint on the planet, and this is amazing frozen yogurt, and I know everyone will love it. But making that all work in the form of, employees and buildings and taxes and legal identity and everything that goes into it is not necessarily intuitive in nature. So I wanted to make sure, as we talk about this time to build, of if you are in that building stage of your business, whether you are the owner yourself or you're a manager in some sort of leadership position in that business, what are you focusing on and where are you putting your energy? Because you do have to be purposeful about it in the sense of, what resources do you have at your disposal in order to apply to these different areas, advertising, growth, new equipment, hiring, bigger and better people to join your team, and as well as in just the investment of that energy and resources in the form of maybe you do need to make that big expenditure to invest the long term to be viable for whatever that looks. It could be technology, computer systems, new software, all those things. And then ultimately that commitment to build that you are there even when making the act of making floral arrangements isn't necessarily fun anymore, or you become so inundated with business that it's overwhelming, that you are committed to having a successful business, whatever that looks like. A successful nursery. You're going to have a successful frozen yogurt shop. You're going to have a successful home remodeling business. Whatever that looks like, you're committed to the success of the business and not necessarily going solely on, how do I say this? Going solely on the gratification of doing what you love to do. Does that make sense? Because there's a business that gratification will only take you so far, especially if you want to be successful and you want to grow. You can't be the one all the time just doing the floral arrangements, out there watering the plants and trimming. You at some point have to become good at business, or at least finding people that are good at those areas in order to allow you to do the things that you really enjoy doing, right? Does that make sense? So yeah, if you're in that time to build, stop approaching it, if you are, as I'll figure it out, or, that'll take care of that when I'm successful, or in the future, I'll be able to hire somebody to do my taxes, right? Those are all things that will absolutely annihilate you in the early stages if you do not have that mindset of, man, how do I structure my business to, one, protect me most from liability, two, protect me most from the highest tax brackets, if there's ways to structure your business to where you pay less taxes. What can I deduct as business expenses versus not, especially if you've got a business that's not your traditional brick and mortar where you're doing more online things or traveling a lot, all those types of things. When do I have to pay my taxes? This is actually something that bit me is early in a business that I had tried and failed to start, is I elected to have my business taxed as an S corp, an LLC S corp, on the advice of my accountant at the time. But then that accountant, and absolutely my fault, I should have done my own research, and this is what I'm alluding to as part of the story, is he failed to mention that, the S corp, their taxes are due at a different time than the rest of everybody else's. It's not your traditional April 15th. They're due in, I forget whatever the date is, but essentially earlier in the year. They operate more on the fiscal year. And those that are smarter than me are like, oh yeah, dummy, it's like October 15th, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but it was several months earlier. And all of a sudden, here I am, I get this letter from the IRS like, oh, hey, you didn't file your taxes. Here's this, X amount of penalty that it was. And I'm like sitting there at my accountant going, bro, what the frick, man? Like, you couldn't have, like, you don't have anything on your calendar that says, oh yeah, my client, Kale Houser, is an S corp. His taxes are due in like 2 weeks. I haven't heard anything from him. Maybe I should check in with him, right? And certainly that was my fault of not doing my own research, but that also goes into beware of who you hire, do your own qualification and ask those questions of, hey, if you haven't heard from me, are you going to be able to touch base with me to make sure everything's okay? Like, I'm trusting you to help me with my taxes. This is why I'm paying you, because you're supposed to be the expert. But anyway, that's just one of those lessons learned of think about ways that people can bite you, even when you've paid them to help you not get bitten, because that was an unfortunate event and probably the reason why that accountant is not with me anymore, or at least a large part of it. All right, sidetrack. Time to build. Be purposeful about it. Be intentional. come up with a plan, seek expert advice, seek people that have done it before. If you don't know who that is, I'll be happy to talk to you about it. We do have some insights and lessons learned that we've had along the way, and then access to people that absolutely, more than likely, have experience in your situation and how to help that, so if we cannot ourselves. Check out kalehouser.com. Please leave me a comment, comment, subscribe. Shares are fantastic. I appreciate you joining me today, tonight, this evening, no matter where you're at in the world. Have a fantastic afternoon. Bye.